Hi, my name is Allison Johnson, and today I'm going to share with you the story of the woman who outshone the sun. So once there was a village, and a woman named Lucia walked into the village, and she was the most beautiful woman that anyone had ever seen. She wore a dress made of flowers that went all the way to the ground, and little butterflies flittered out from her dress as she walked down the road, and she had a long, rich, dark hair that flowed behind her unbraided. And the people were overwhelmed with how beautiful Lucia was, and they were also afraid because they had never met someone so wonderful yet so strange. And Lucia became settled in the town, and she would go to the river that flowed through the town just as all the people who lived there did. And Lucia would go there to bathe, and when she went to the river fell in love with Lucia, and the river would flow up from the riverbed and into her hair, and the water would flow through with the fishes and the otters. And so as Lucia finished bathing, she'd have to sit at the river's edge and she'd have to comb out her hair. And as she combed out her hair, all of the water and the fishes and the otters would return to where they had been. And the more often that Lucia went to the river, the more in love with her the river fell. And as Lucia went into the town, she began to notice that the people were very fearful of Lucia, and they would talk about her behind her back, and as she walked down the street they would look away from her and they wouldn't return her greeting. And the elders warned that they must be nice to Lucia because she was a part of nature and she understood the ways of nature, and that they would regret it if they didn't. But the people were still fearful, and although Lucia knew that people were talking about her, she kept her head held high, and she was still proud of who she was. But the longer she stayed, the meaner people got, and they would spread cruel rumors about how she was planning to harm the people, and eventually they drove Lucia from the village. And before Lucia left, she went down to the river, because the river was truly the only thing there that ever loved her, and she went to say goodbye. And so she sat at the river's edge, and once again the water flowed up from the river, and into her hair went the fishes and the otters. And so as she was finishing her goodbye, she went to go comb out her hair, but it was stuck. The fish wouldn't come out, and the water wouldn't come out, and the river would not leave her. And so she saw that the river was determined to stay. And so she took all of her belongings and she headed out of town. And the people noticed that Lucia had left, and they were rejoiced and relieved that she wouldn't be there anymore. But they also noticed that the river left them, and the villagers never thought that their river would leave them. And so, although at first they were relieved, they soon realized that they were thirsty without their river. They had nowhere to bathe, and they had nothing to give their children or their animals, and they had no water for their crops, and they began to worry as they didn't have any energy to play. And so they went to the elders and they said, "Elders, what do we do?" And the elders looked at them and said, "We warned you. You needed to be kind to Lucia even though she was different. And so you only have one option. You must go and find her and you must beg for her forgiveness." And so the people still questioned the elders because they were fearful of Lucia and they were glad that she had left. But eventually the conditions got so bad the village decided to go together as one and search for Lucia. So they looked for her day and night, and eventually they found Lucia. And as they found Lucia, she was hidden in an iguana cave with her back turned to the people, and everyone was afraid to talk to Lucia. And eventually one of the children spoke up and said, "Lucia, we've come to ask for your forgiveness. Will you please return our river to us?" And Lucia didn't turn around right away, but slowly she turned to look at the people. She saw how fearful and tired they were, and she felt compassion for them. So she looked at the people and she said, "I will return the river to you, but you must understand one thing. Just as the river gave water to all who were thirsty, regardless of who they were, you must learn to give kindness to everyone, even those who are different from you." And as the villagers looked at her, they hung their heads in sadness and shame as they thought about how they had treated Lucia. And Lucia looked up over them and she saw that they were truly sorry for what they had done. So Lucia led the town back to the village, and she went to the river where the water had once been, and she took her hair and she began to comb, and out came the water, and out came the fishes, and out came the otters, and the river returned to where it had once been. And the people of the town were so happy that they jumped into the river and they drank from it and they splashed it at their friends. and they poured it over their animals in celebration and rejoice. And nobody had noticed that Lucia had disappeared once again until one of the children went to the elders and asked where Lucia had gone. And the elders explained that Lucia had never really left them, that she would always be there to watch over and protect them and make sure that they had kindness in their hearts wherever they went.
Woo!
Yes!
Yay!